All right, here we go. My name's Jeff K, and you're listening to episode 464 of the world-famous West Virginia Surf Report podcast.
Good boy, my ass.
We successfully completed our excursion to Washington D.C. Me and the older boy. We went there. We did all the things, and we came back without any major incidents. And as is tradition, my school grade for the trip is a strong A-. What do you think about that? That's a pretty high score. I when I first got back, it's a phenomenon I think that I want to discuss with you. When I first got back, I probably would have said B+. And the farther I get away from the trip itself, the higher the score has gone. Because there were problems. We had problems. There were issues. Well, I had issues. We both had issues. But of course, I made a bigger deal with the issues than he did. And the main problem was the heat. Just the relentless, non-stop heat. And the fact that he had to walk everywhere. I mean, long distances. I mean, I don't mind walking a little bit, but I don't like walking miles and miles through the heat. And just the soul-crushing humidity. You know, everything you do is like 2 miles apart. You know what I mean? That part sucks. And I was bitching up a storm. I know you might find this hard to believe. This might seem like it goes against character. But I was doing a substantial amount of bitching. And, that doesn't, people don't like that. I've learned that people don't like just somebody's just bitching all the time. But it sucked, the heat and the walking, everything. I had it in my head. I had it envisioned in my head that everything was like close together. Ho, 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 ho. That's a foolhardy thing to even believe. Everything was far. And the older boy's like, it's just right over there. I said, well, how far? What are we talking about? He was that building over there. I said, over there on the edge of the horizon? That's like miles from here. He's like, oh my God. I said, what the hell? I said, we've been walking and walking and walking, and it's still all the way over there. I can barely see the roof of this place, So and we just we walked so many miles. And I'm not built for that, I'm a fat old man, and I'm not in very good shape. I was huffing and puffing like a fat boy in lead shoes, as Devo would say. But anyway, so that definitely, I was covered in sweat when you're just covered in sweat for 5 days in a row, pretty much nonstop, it drives the score down. But the farther I get away from it, I'm like, we did a lot. We squeezed in a lot. You could say what you want about the heat and the humidity and all that, but I think it was a success. In fact, I broke this thing down into categories. I'm just gonna go over the categories. I'm not gonna try to do a chronological on you. I'm just gonna try to do it, break it up into categories, and I tell you about each of those, and it's like power through it. We did a lot. We did a lot. So the first category I have written down here is the hotel. The hotel was nice. It was like some kind of, I don't know what it was, Fairfield Inn or some generic travel hotel. It was in Alexandria, and that's not really, I don't know. I mean, the part we were staying in was a little rough. The hotel was nice. The hotel was really nice. The people there were nice. The place was clean and modern, and everything's good. Had no issue at all with the hotel. The neighborhood that it was situated in, a little rough around the edges. In fact, one day we were going to somewhere. We're in the car. I had it in my head also that I was going to just get there and park the car and not drive it until we got finished, till we left to go home. Again, foolhardy. I was driving all the time. The problem is, they said, don't drive down to the National Mall area, that area, because it's just a mess. But we had to drive to the subway station. We had to drive here. We had to drive there. I mean, nothing was close. So anyway, so one day we were driving probably to the subway station, and there was some guy, homeless street person. I don't know. He had like a big old beard, and his hair's all messed up. Probably had like birds' nests living in his beard, or like nestled in his beard. And he was out in the middle of the road, and there's tons of traffic, and he was going up to cars, begging for money and stuff. He had no pants on, had nothing on from the waist down. His wiener and all that was just out in the open air. He's just like stumbling around, like pecking on people's windows. Guy's unit is just right there for all to see. And I'm like, it's a great neighborhood here you got going here. And there's a lot of places, and vape shops, and I don't know. Just felt a little grimy, but the hotel was nice. I had no issue with the hotel. They had breakfast down there in the morning. That was it wasn't great. It was fine. It was better than some, not nearly as good as others. Obviously there's most of those kinds of hotels have like breakfast included, right? And this one did, I've been to some of them and they're just terrible. They basically just have like a banana or some yogurt and maybe one of those stupid waffle machines where you have to make your own waffles. I mean, I had more than that. They had scrambled eggs, they had bacon, they had sausage, they had oatmeal. They had stuff. They had a little bit of fruit and stuff. So it was better than some. But the one in Philly that we were at recently, they had a full-blown buffet. It was really good. It wasn't that good. But so anyway, we went down there every morning because it was part of the, it was free, basically. Well, it wasn't free, but, it's part of it. And it's a good way to save money. Just go down there and drink a shitload of coffee. That's what I did. And then eat on most days. And it was always just packed. Just tons and tons of people in there, just you can't even generally there's not even a place to sit, can't get near the coffee, everybody's speaking different languages. It's like the League of Nations down there. People gigantic. There's like buses. I guess there's down there having breakfast, and then they're going to get on a bus and go to the next destination. And they were all speaking foreign languages. I don't know what they were. A lot of it was Spanish, but then there was other languages too. I don't know. But everybody's in there talking real loud. The place is just loud. In fact, I recorded. This is just a general. I'm gonna give you a little clip. This is just a general clip of what it sounds like when you're down there having starting the day with a quiet breakfast. Here it is. I don't know if I'll give you a general idea. It's just loud. Everybody has like luggage. They're getting ready to get on this bus. The biggest luggage I've ever seen in my life. You could put a human being inside these things. Huge pieces of luggage. How long are these guys going to be? How long are these people away from home? Why you need that much? Like giant suitcases. I didn't even know they made them that big. And everybody had them. Were they away for a month or 2 months or something? I don't know, whatever. But I went down there and drank as much coffee as I could drink, and sometimes I ate. Sometimes I was so battered and beat up from the walking, my legs were hurting. The sun just zapped everything from me. I was like, I don't even want to eat anything. I was going to drink coffee, just sit down there, look at my phone, drink coffee. That's how I started every day, But the hotel was good, I don't know. It was in the neighborhood. I don't really need to see. Call me crazy, but I don't need to see bum wang early, before noon. I don't really want to see it after noon, but in the morning hours, I don't really need to see bum wang. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so the neighborhood was a little questionable, but the hotel itself was good. All right, so that's good. The next category, monuments. The monuments we went to see. We went to all the big ones. I've been there. I've been to Washington D.C. Once or twice. I don't know. I know I went in 6th grade, but I think I went after that too with my parents and my brother. But I have very little recollection of that. But anyway, it's been a long, long time since I was like a teenager, I guess. So and that was a long time ago, like 50 years ago, 45, 50 years ago. Anyway, so I went to a lot of these places when I was a kid, but I don't remember much about it. So it was pretty much all new to me. So the monuments we visited, the Lincoln Monument, that one was far. That was a long walk. No matter where you're at, it's a long walk, And my legs were on fire, and I was bitching. There's a lot of steps. I was like, are you serious? Why do they put these things up on these steps? They've got an escalator in this son of a bitch. It's like my son's like, oh, could it stop? Just the bitching, just please stop. Like what the hell? So anyway, that was good, I guess. The Lincoln Memorial, the Jefferson Memorial, also a long, long, impossible walk through underpasses, cross highways, those walkways that cross interstate highways, through neighborhoods. There's some guy out there with a pair of crutches living in the woods, swinging the crutch around. He's like another bum. At least he had his pants on. But he was like, I don't know, he's all agitated, swinging a pair of crutches around. I don't know what the hell's going on. And, it's just really far. We went there, also up 1,000,000 steps. You got to climb 1,000,000 steps to get up there. That was kind of cool because you could see the White House and you could see the Washington Monument on the other side. And we went to the Washington Monument, and I was going to get on one of those scooters that you could rent. And my son's like, "Don't do it." I said, "What? What's the problem?" "I don't know. I think you'll fall down and like break your shoulder or something." And I said, "You don't think I could ride a scooter?" "No. Why would I think that?" I said, "Bullshit, I'm getting one." So I went over there. I downloaded the app. I attached my bank card to it, right? And then I jumped on one of those scooters. Thing wouldn't work. My son said, he goes, the battery's dead in it. It says right there. And I said, "What am I, a scientist? I don't know what these lights mean." He's like, "Oh my God." So I'm like trying to get this thing to run. The battery's completely dead in it. He told me later that there was a group of Germans laughing at me. I said, "How dare Germans?" Oh, give me a break. No, I don't know. Whatever. So I was ready to. I was going to zip and zoom around Washington D.C. on one of those things. He had absolutely no confidence that I could do it. Deeply offensive. But so we went to we went to Washington Monument, went to the Vietnam Memorial. The Vietnam Memorial, where it starts out in 1959, it's like a wall, has names on it, and then it goes up. They add names as it goes along of people that got killed, and the thing's way above your head at the height, at the middle of it, and then it goes down on the other side. It's crazy. I don't know who came up with that idea, but that's awesome. I mean, that really, you're like looking at this thing, you're like, look at all these people. All these people got killed, and they all had like lives. They had parents and siblings and girlfriends and wives, kids in some cases. They had lives, and it's just names. It's like above your head. People just getting kids. There's so many of them. It takes a wall that's like, 12, 10 foot tall or something in the middle. Oh my God! Whoever came up with that idea, that's a pretty awesome one. That's a cool one. There's some dumbass riding a bicycle up and down the side of that thing. And supposedly, or thankfully, security is like, get that out of here. This is a place, this is a monument for the war dead. This is not some place for you to. So I was like, yeah. It's not a playground. So they got shamed. Who rides a bicycle up and down a war memorial? There's people in there crying, looking up like their brother's name on this wall and stuff. There's somebody, ding, do-de, do-de, do, coming through. A bicycle, dumbass. Somebody should have punched him right in the face. Dumbasses. There's so many dumbasses. All right, so we did that and the World War II. We walked by the World War II, the monument. That thing's not good. I mean, I don't know. That's not so good. I don't know. It's just a circle, like a round thing. It's got a fountain in the middle of it, but it didn't have any water in it. Even if it was full of water and stuff, and there's like water squirting up or whatever it does, like that's pretty lame. I don't know. I don't think that's a very good one. I think World War II should have a better monument. Who's with me? I don't want to get controversial. So we went to all those, across the few days. The tours that we went on the Capitol. We toured the Capitol, U.S. Capitol. It was, I wouldn't say it was the greatest thing in the world. It was kind of good. You wore a headset, and there was a tour guide that talked, and you could hear it through the headset. She was pretty good. She told us a lot of stuff, and but they didn't really take us. They showed us a lot of statues. There's a lot of statues in the Capitol, it turns out. Every state is allowed to have 2 statues of anybody they want. It doesn't have to be any. Most of them have people that are like born in the state that they're representing. But sometimes it's not. It's just somebody that's important. Somebody feels they're important. One of the coolest one was Arkansas had Johnny Cash, And I asked about West Virginia, and they named the 2 people. I never heard of them. I don't even know who they are. One of them's been there since 1901, and the other one was from 1911, I think. People from way back, never even heard of them. I don't know who they are. Whatever. I said I think they should have Jerry West or Don Knotts or somebody. Maybe Soupy Sales. They should have a Soupy Sales statue in the U.S. Capitol. You know what I'm saying? And he goes, well, you should petition your representatives. I said, yeah, I'm going to do that. Probably do that when I get back. Yeah. But anyway, so we did that. We went to the Capitol. It was all right. I wouldn't put it high on my list. One of the things was kind of funny. Kind of interesting. We were sitting outside. It was one of those ones. A lot of them you could just walk up and tour, but some of them, the more popular ones like that, you have to get like a ticket. It's free, but I think they just want to manage so that not everybody's arriving at the same time. So you have a time. Our time was 11:30, I think. I think. I don't remember. But, and we got there a little early, so we're sitting on a wall, a little 3-foot wall or something. I don't know. Maybe like a 2-foot wall outside. Just sitting there waiting and waiting for our, for it to be our time to go downstairs to the visitor center and go through security and all that stuff. And this guy walks over there, a cop dressed like a cop. It said secret, what is it called? What is it called? Secret Service, of course. So he comes over and says Secret Service. He's dressed as a cop. He has this big old giant automatic rifle, like strapped to his chest. And he goes, "Excuse me, guys, I'm going to have to look behind this wall here." So he's like looking down on the back of this wall, going back and forth looking. And he left. I'm like, "What the hell? What the hell's that?" Guy's like armed to the teeth, right? And so then we're sitting there and we were speculating on what the hell that was all about. And then this old guy comes, this crotchety old bastard comes out there and he goes, "Can you guys excuse me? I did grab something on the other side of this wall." And he reaches over and gets this pocket knife, and he goes, "I was trying to get in this stupid Capitol, and you have to empty your pockets, and they said you can't take that pocket knife in here." And I said, "Well, what do you want me to do with it? You're going to have to throw it away." He goes, "I'm not throwing this thing away." He goes, "I'll just take it outside and hide it, and I'll pick it up on my way out." So he left, and I guess they weren't happy with that. So he goes, He goes, "They told me that they have to watch me throw it away. So I'm going to have to throw away a perfectly good pocket knife. I can't just leave it outside. No, that's not good enough. Now that they know I have a pocket knife, they got to watch me throw it in the trash." I said, "Well, I'm sitting there like, I don't know. You should have read the frickin'. I read all the stuff that you can't bring in there. There's a list, Like, why are you surprised about this? Whatever." So he went downstairs, to the visitor center, and then a few minutes later, another Secret Service guy came over there, and he goes, "Hey, did you see? Was there somebody over here a few minutes ago looking at the back of that wall?" I said, there was an officer looking on this other side of the wall, and then there was some crotchety old bastard. I didn't say that. I said there was some old man came and got a pocket knife, and he went down the steps and he was bitching about it. He just guy just kind of chuckled and said, "Okay, thanks." Then he got on a walkie-talkie. I don't know what happened to him next. He's probably in prison. I don't know what happened to the old guy. He might be in prison. He might be down in that alligator. What's that camp? Alligator Alcatraz. I'm not sure where he is. I don't know what happened to him. But anyway, I hope I guess I ratted him out. I don't know. But anyway, so that happened, and then we went to the Supreme Court. That was probably the lamest. Well, I mean, you can't go into you can't see anything, basically. Just hallways with offices, I don't know. I mean, we're inside the building. And then they had this little cafeteria, and I was thirsty, so I went in there, and I grabbed a can of Dr. Pepper, and I walked out. Cracked that thing open like I was, drinking a Pabst Blue Ribbon or something, and guzzled it. And some security guard goes, "Hey, you can't just be walking around in here drinking sodas." Listen, bumpkin, I don't know where you're from, but it's probably Shit Stain, Arkansas, or someplace like that. Get your ass. I mean, that isn't exactly what he said, but that's what I heard. Get your hillbilly ass and your Dr. Pepper out of here, He's yelling at me in the hallway of the Supreme Court because I was drinking a Dr. Pepper. That, by the way, was on sale there. It's not like I brought it in from the outside. Anyway, my son was like, He was like, I don't know. The whole time he's like, it quickly turned in. I don't know. Anyway, he was exasperated by me all the time. And then we went to Mount Vernon, and that it wasn't as lame as the Supreme Court, but it was disappointing, especially to my son. He's like all into history. He was looking forward to that the most. He was looking forward to Mount Vernon. The house is basically shut down. You can't even go in there. We went into 2 rooms in the entire house. One of them didn't even have furniture in it. You know, they're raising the thing up. They're raising the whole house up. You know, and we couldn't see Jack. You know, we basically saw one room that had furniture in it, and there's some guy in there talking about it, and then some other room had nothing in it. It was just empty. Didn't even, you know. And they were like, "That's it," you know. Like, what the? No, we had to pay for that. I mean, all this other stuff was free, you know, but that one wasn't free. There was some interesting stuff on the grounds of Mount Vernon, which I thought was kind of cool, you know. But he was not. The younger boy, or I'm the older boy, I should say, was deeply disappointed by that, and he was offended, big time offended by the gift shop. He goes, "Look at this stuff. You know, who would buy this shit? Who wants George Washington socks and stuff?" He goes, he's probably spinning in his grave, you know. I mean, he was like offended by the whole thing, and they were selling all kinds of souvenirs. The house was shut down, you know. And I mean, but there was stuff around. We went to they had a kitchen that was separate from the house, which I thought was interesting. He said they did that back then because it was too dangerous to have a fire, you know, to be cooking inside the house. So it was a separate building, an outbuilding. There was a smokehouse. There was I don't know. There's all kinds of places. There's a washroom where they wash clothes, and you know, just various buildings around. And then we went down and saw the original vault where he and Martha were buried, and other members of the family. And then they moved it because he was never happy with it. You know, his brother, I guess, built the original tomb, and he was like a half brother, and he never liked it. He didn't like it. He didn't like the location of it. He said it wasn't grand enough. So in his will, he said, "Need to build a better tomb and move everybody to that one." And he had the location already out, you know, built out in his mind and everything. So they did that. It took them like 40 years, but they did all that stuff, and there's like a big, you know, it's a big fancy, you know, mausoleum type thing. And so we saw that. We went to the graveyard, the slave graveyard. That was bizarre. I guess it said something like there was like at least 577 slaves worked at Mount Vernon while Washington was alive. And not all at the same time, obviously, but over that time, like almost 600 slaves worked there. And they just buried them down on this area. And there's no headstones. I don't know if there ever were, but there aren't now. And they're using like ground-penetrating radar to figure out where the graves are. And they found out that they're like families of slaves. They were all buried like in groups, and they think it's like families, you know. Anyway, that was kind of strange. Kind of like, I mean, I don't know. Made me feel a little weird, you know. Obviously, and there's memorials out there for them. You know, like one of them's from 1939, I think, and that's kind of bizarre, and I don't know, and I guess he had 8,000 acres, Washington did, and it had like 6 farms running, and he had people running them. They had people running all 6 farms, highly lucrative. Had a lot of people slaves working on these farms, and it had tons and tons of land, you know. Yeah, I found it was interesting. The older boy was deeply, deeply disappointed by the house being shut down, and he was irritated and annoyed by the gift shop. I said, that's standard. That shit happens, you know. He goes, I don't know. This goes against everything, you know. This guy, Washington would have hated this. I said, okay, I don't know. I don't really know. But anyway, and the last on my tour list is the White House. We did that. We had to actually extend our trip by a day to do that. And that turned out to be a mini fiasco at the beginning. It's just more walking. You know, they said, by that point, this is the last day, I was beaten down. I felt like I'd been dragged behind a truck by a gang of racists in Mississippi. You know what I'm saying? It's like tied to a back of a truck and just dragged down a dirt road in Mississippi. Anyway, I was done. I was emotionally, I was spiritually done, you know. So we were doing all this research, you know. We had to change trains, you know. We had to use a specific exit from the subway station, and it said it's a block away, where the place where you meet up for this tour is 1 block. It said 1 block. I said, shit. This thing said 5-minute walk. I said, perfect. I like that, you know. So I had my inner sensors set for that, and it was like 8 blocks. Like, where's this information come from? It's not even true. It's like not even close to true, you know. So I was complaining, bitching. It's like, oh my God, why has everything got to be this way? Hot, so hot, crushingly hot. I was sweating my entire. It's like I felt like I just got out of the river by the time we got there. So hot. And you guys can make fun of me all you want, but yesterday, so there's like a tennis tournament going on there in Washington, D.C., and they shut that thing down yesterday, you know? It's like it's too hot, like heat advisories and stuff. And these are professional athletes. They're not 62-year-old fatties. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so we got there. He was irritated with me at that point. More than the irritation had reached a new level, a new high, right? But we went on the tour, and the thing about that is the security was insane. I mean, we had to show ID multiple times to multiple groups of people. You had to have that real ID, or they won't let you in there, you know. Everything has to match on your application. Like, you have to go through a background check and all this stuff. Everything has to match. Your ID has to match what they have on file. It has to be a real ID. It can't be one of those regular issue driver's licenses. They put you through multiple metal detectors. Take everything out of your pockets, you know, and you go through the metal detectors. There was a part where you had to walk down this tunnel, and there were dogs on the other side, like a fence. Like the dogs, you're separated by a fence. You had to stop and put your feet, you know, there's feet prints on the floor. Stand there, and these dogs are like going back and forth, agitated. They're like, you know, and then you're good. It was like crazy to get in there, but that was fun. I mean, I was like, what the hell? We're in the White House. It's like one of those things. You're like inside. You're inside the White House, looking at Washington D.C. from inside the White House, you know. And it was a pretty good tour. They took you to a lot of places in there, and you got to see a lot, you know. I mean, you didn't get to go see the Oval Office or anything like that, but you went into a whole bunch of rooms, and you know, and it was cool. The whole place is really nice, and I like that. And they had a lot of artwork on the walls, and they had it was really cool. And there was some kind of a military band playing outside. We asked about it, and they said it was there were some ambassadors that were arriving, and this was in their welcome committee. Some ambassadors were coming to the White House that day, and anyway, it was cool. It was good. I was like, I really, I'm glad we stayed an extra day for that. That was really pretty awesome. Of all the tours we went on, that one was by far the best. Mount Vernon would have been good if everything had been opened. But the White House was good. That was a good one. So yeah, that's the tours part of the tours category. The next category, museums. We went to 4 different. Damn it! I keep knocking that over. We went to 4 different Smithsonian museums. We went to the Natural History Museum, the American History Museum, the Air and Space Museum, and American Art Museums. All of them. Went to all 4 of them. They were all really good. The American Natural History, I should say, they have dinosaurs and stuff in there. Dinosaur bones, all that stuff. They have, the American History, they have, like, what do you have? Well, American History was slightly... No, hang on a second. That's wrong. I'm getting them mixed up in my head. But they had a lot of moon stuff in the Air and Space Museum. American History, they had the Hope Diamond was in there. I don't know. The Hope Diamond. I can't remember which ones I saw it in. But we saw the Wright brother, one of the original Wright brothers planes. That Air and Space, that was closed, part of it, and again. And we were like, why is everything closed? And then the older boy said, that's because next year is the 250th anniversary of the country. There's probably going to be all kinds of shit going on. And they want everything updated by then. That's probably true. That's why everything's shut down. Everything's being upgraded, Even the Mount Vernon Museum was closed, half of it. You couldn't even see his teeth. You couldn't see those teeth that were made from donkey teeth and stuff. So everything was shut down, half shut down. Like in that Air and Space, there were 2 things that were on my list of things I wanted to see, and that was the lunar module landed on the moon. Didn't get to see it. And the Spirit of St. Louis, which is the first airplane to fly over the ocean. Couldn't see that either. But we saw some interesting stuff in there. We saw Evel Knievel's motorcycle that he jumped over the buses, I think, at Kings Island. We saw this motorcycle from like 1910. It had like an 8-cylinder motor on it. You should have seen this thing. The thing was ridiculous. There's no way I'd never ride such a thing. I think it's just a rolling deathmobile. Even in that Wright brothers plane, good God, you like lay on your stomach on that thing. They had video. They had like film of one of the first flights, or an early flight anyway. I'm like, who would go up on that thing? I think they got it going pretty good at that point, but it was like sticks with a tarp for wings. I don't know. So anyway, those museums are all really good. The art museum was bizarre. There's stuff in there that there was stuff in those in the art museum where it was like stuff. I'm not an art. I don't know anything about art, but there's stuff in there. I was like, I know that. I've seen that before. That one where I don't know. Napoleon. There's a famous Napoleon painting that was in there where he's got his hand stuck inside of his uniform, the hidden hand, which is some kind of satanic shit. I don't know. I don't know what the hell. I could be wrong, but anyway, there's a bunch of paintings in there that I'm like, hey, I don't know shit about shit, but I know that I've seen that before. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. That was the one I was like, I don't know if I even want to go in there. I don't know anything about that. Turned out to be one of the coolest ones, the art museum. And in that American History Museum, they had all kinds of like contemporary stuff, like Prince's guitar, Eddie Van Halen's guitar, stuff like that. They had Archie Bunker's chair in there. They had Howdy Doody. They had the actual stopwatch from 60 Minutes, like at the beginning of 60 Minutes. Things just go tick, 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 you know what I'm saying? Has a stopwatch on there. They had the actual one where they made that, what they made it from. I don't know, stuff like that. Contemporary stuff. I thought that stuff's cool. Supposedly used to have the puffy shirt from Seinfeld, but it's not. Said it's not currently on display. I was deeply offended. Deeply hurt by that. But the museums are good. They're free. They're huge. I mean, you could spend an entire day in one of them. Some of them, I feel like we didn't even see, maybe like, I don't think we even saw half of it, you know? They're just so sprawling and big, you know? And we wanted to go to all of them, so we did it. So that's the museum. That was cool. That's definitely a must-do. Those four are I'd say must-dos. There's probably others. I mean, there's a bunch of them, all scattered around the city, all spaced about 2 miles apart. Everything's spaced about 2 miles apart in that place, you know. And the heat did I mention the heat? Anyway, the next category, food. We didn't do too much. We didn't do too much adventure eating. By the time we went back on the subway and went back to the hotel, we were burned out. We were like, I don't give a shit, but I don't even know if I want to eat, you know? It's like I was so, like, sick from the sun. I was like, I don't even want to eat again. I don't think I ever want to eat again, you know? I'm just destroyed, you know? God. So, the only thing the two interesting things we went to, the first night we were there, we went to this Mexican place, Mexican/Peruvian, if you can believe it, called El Pollo Ranchero. El Pollo Ranchero. And they had it was like Mexican food, but they also had Peruvian chicken, and it was like on a skewer, you know. So I don't know. It was good, I guess. I don't know. I when I was eating it, I was going, "Damn, this is good." And then afterwards, like, I don't know if I liked that. I don't know. It was good, I guess. It was fine. And then we went to some famous street vendor named Sammy. Sammy's Hot Dogs. Guy's been in business for 32 years. You know, if you read the reviews, said this place is just like the best place, you know. This is where you got to go. So we hunted it down. It was about 2 miles away from where we were at, you know, give or take. We hunted it down. We went and talked to Sammy himself. Got 4 hot dogs, you know, 2 each, and 2 bottles of water. $24. I was like, holy shit, that's cheap. You know, for a big city like that. Any big city, it's like, I was expecting it to be like twice that much. I'm not even kidding. And it was really good. The hot dogs were good, you know, and we sat out in this little park. I had these tables set up out there. And it was nice. It was great. The guy was real nice, cool, you know. Sammy. So those were the 2 interesting ones. Then we went to this Applebee's one night. That was one of those nights. Like, I don't give a shit where we go. Just go somewhere. I don't care. We're like at each other's throat. So I said, what about this Applebee's up here? He's like, I don't give a shit. So we went in there. The thing was all beat up. The walls were all scarred. The carpet was frayed. The staff was surly. You know, there was a hint that it smelled kind of like a wet dog in there. I was like, this is a shitty Applebee's. You know, a good one's not very good. This is a shitty one. So I got a chicken sandwich or something, chicken with bacon on it. It was all right. It was fine, but the clientele and the staff, Had a little edge to them, everybody. Not the greatest neighborhood. It was near our hotel. And then one other time we went to Chili's. It was another day. We were like, I feel like I'm going to vomit. I might vomit or shit myself one. I don't know. I feel like I'm sun sick, you know. So we went to this Chili's near our hotel. It was nice. It was better. There wasn't as much edge in there. It wasn't nearly as edgy, and the food was kicking. I was surprised by how good it was. I thought it was damn good, you know. And the older boys thought the same, you know. That was good. So then we went to Five Guys one day. I was fine, whatever. So we weren't there for the food. He's not really an adventure eater anyway. You know, I think Sammy's was good, and that El Pollo Ranchero, that was we're going out on a limb there. Both of them were, Sammy's was good. I don't know about that other place. And that Applebee's was, they could burn that to the ground for all I care. That place sucked. All right. And let's see, how many more categories we have? The next category is Subway. The Subway, it was good. I was a little concerned about that because I was just thinking back about the Subway in Atlanta where you could get murdered, you know. You feel like your life is, you don't know, anything could happen. You know, and the one in New York's not great either, you know. But I've been on others, you know. I've been on Subway in London. It was good. And I don't know, you know, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. This one was a good one. This is, of course, we're in the touristy area. I'm sure they keep it clean and as safe as they can keep it, you know. But everybody on the trains that we were on were like business people, like people at work down there, or tourists. And it was, we had absolutely no problems whatsoever. And we used it over and over. We're on that thing all the time. Everywhere we went around, everywhere we went, we used the Subway, you know. We even used it to the baseball game, and we used it to the White House, you know. We used it many, many times, and we had no problems. The only issue is they were yelling over the microphone. Can't understand a damn thing. Like they make announcements over the speaker, things like, you're like, what the hell did he say? I don't know. Or sometimes it was a woman. It didn't matter. It was you couldn't understand a damn thing. I have a little recording of it. This might give you a little bit of a hint of how it sounded. Here it is. Could you make any of that out? I mean, what the hell's he doing? Do they need new speakers? Are they putting the microphone inside their mouth? I don't know. But the whole experience, the whole Subway experience was great. I mean, I had no issues with it. We quickly learned how to navigate that thing. It's not very complicated. It's pretty straightforward, you know, and it was good. It was a pretty positive experience. One day we had to go downstairs to a different level because there's different levels of this thing. And I think that was more of I think the level that we're normally riding on, which was the yellow line, I think that's where they segregate all the tourists. And everything's all clean and safe. We had to go downstairs for some reason. One of those times we had to switch trains. And a little different world down there. But I don't know. It had more of an Atlanta feel. Just down one level on the escalator. But it was all right. It was good. The whole thing was good. The next category is the baseball game. We went to a baseball game, Reds versus the Nationals out there at Nationals Park. That was fun. That was a good time. It was a night game. The temperature dropped. There was a nice breeze. We were high up in the stadium, right behind home plate. Very comfortable. Very comfortable. The Reds got their ass polished, but it was fun anyway. I don't know, whatever. I mean, I don't know. The Reds beat up on really good teams like the Mets. And then the next series, they're playing a bad team like the Washington Nationals and get get beat up, I'm like, what the hell? They scored 8 runs and lost. The Reds scored 8 runs and lost 10-8. That right there indicate one thing: shit pitching. All right. Anyway, it was fun. The people sitting around us were all entertaining, and it was good times. And the area around the stadium was like a big party, which is the way stadiums are supposed to be. It's supposed to be a party atmosphere. That's the way Cincinnati is. That's the way Pittsburgh is. Philly, less so. There's just a bunch of parking lots around it. They don't have like that whole, like a couple of blocks of bars and restaurants where people congregate. At least I don't know. If they do, I don't know about it. Let's put it that way. And but Washington, they did, and it's fun. It's a good time. In Cincinnati, they have this place called the Banks. This area of town called the Banks. It's just restaurants and bars, and little shops that are baseball oriented. And everybody's out there having a good time, sitting at tables outside. There's bars and restaurants are packed. Everybody's in a good mood, So the stadium was good, The stadium was nice. The view was nice. Everybody's friendly. If the Reds had won, it'd have been a grand slam. And we had to change trains on that excursion. But we had no issues at all, Good times. There's this old grouchy old bastard out there sitting by himself near us. He was listening. He had all kinds of apparatus. He was listening to the game through headphones. He had a tablet, and he had the font set on that thing. This guy's like old. He's probably in his, I don't know, probably 75 years old, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so he had headphones on, attached to something, wired headphones, and he had a tablet that he was reading baseball information on, like stats and stuff. And he had the font set on that thing. Should have seen how big. I was looking over there at that thing. It's huge. Like, guy has bad eyesight, I guess. He had the font set massive, and he's like listening to the game, and like Ellie De La Cruz, like, goes to second on a ball that gets away from the catcher, and they call it a stolen base, and they ruled it a second base, and he goes, "Oh, come on, that was a pass ball, bullshit!" Because like this old grouchy old man just yelling, "Oh, come on, that was not a stolen base," And he was up there. There's these people, these Reds fans sitting behind me. Or sitting behind us, and they were shouting stuff too. And he goes, one of them goes, "Oh, come on, that was too high. That was the guy called it a strike. The ump called it a strike." And that old man goes, turned around and goes, "You can't tell from up here. You can't even tell from, But it was fun. That was good. That was a slam dunk. I'd have gone to 2 of them. If the boy had been into it. And I kind of floated it. He was like, "Nah, I don't think so." He had fun, though. We had a good time. He's not a real baseball fan. But and when we were riding back on that subway, he had to walk pretty far. I'd say 2 miles. I don't know. Probably a little bit less. Hot, sweaty. It's hot and sweaty. You get on that thing, you're packed in there. I mean, packed. And everybody's just, there's no place to sit, so you're standing, and everybody's arms straight up holding on those poles. And I'm like, good Lord. This is like, I don't know, armpits and sweat and, anyway. And that's pretty much all the categories. That pretty much covers it. There's probably stuff I forgot. As I remember it, I'll bring it up in a future episode. But it was fun. It was a good trip. And the farther I get away from it, the better I realize how good it was. If he hadn't gotten, he suffered. It's inevitable, really. He suffered from an ailment called too much Jeff. He just gets, it's just too much of me. That happens, whoever, I was telling Tony about it. She goes, "Oh, you don't have to tell me." That's not very, that's kind of hurtful. She goes, too much Jeff is a real problem. It's an issue. So, okay, thanks. Jesus. But anyway, so that happened. And that's it. That covers the trip. I'm way long on this thing. It's a long one. I do have one call this is in the same category. This is from our old pal Ian in Scotland talking about his trip to America, his recent trip to visit his sister in Virginia. And here it is.
Hey, Jeff. See you in Scotland here. Sorry, but not been in touch for a while. Yeah, so, US trip, Virginia blew my mind. USA. It's great. Did loads of stuff. Didn't get to Cracker Barrel, but we did go to the Colonial Pancake House in Williamsburg, and we had grits. Not a fan of the old grits. Weirdly, the opposite texture of what I was imagining. I thought grits would be hard thing, but no, it's extremely soft. Grits turned out to be extremely soft, for old people with no teeth maybe. But I did have scrapple. Oof, that's good. That's like, I don't know. Reminded me a bit of haggis with spice, but yeah, scrapple, that's good. That'll line your organs. Set you up for the day. So yeah, it was really good. After USA, I've been to Sweden, been refereeing at the Karate World Cup in Malmo. I've met a wonderful woman. So yeah, she's rocked my world. And I shy away from phrases like soulmate, but weird shit is happening. Weird stuff. To the extent, like, so we were both talking about, we were talking on the phone about ticket prices at gigs and jury duty just last night. And then I'm listening to your show today, and what comes up? Ticket prices and jury duty. It's like, what the fuck is happening? Anyway, so we're going to try and give this a go. Unfortunately, no more journeys to Fife, or whatever. No, but certainly no more journeys to Fife in the car. Yeah, it's all good. Did I mention that she lives in Florida? Whatever. It's going to be fine. Okay, mate. Keep up the work. Bye.
So no Cracker Barrel. That was one of the... I was telling... He asked me some things I should do. And I said, well, Cracker Barrel, of course. That's number one on... if you're coming to the United States, you got to go to Cracker Barrel. So you didn't make it to Cracker Barrel, but you had grits. I don't know. I'm not a super big fan of them either. But people act like they're like grossed out by them. They taste like corn. It's just some kind of corn, I don't know what it is. It tastes like you're eating corn. And sometimes they put like cheese and stuff in them. I don't know. They're just kind of bland and mushy. I don't know. They're inoffensive. It's nothing that I seek out, but I'm not repulsed by them either. Anyway, scrapple, I don't know what the hell that is. What is that? Just like ground up buttholes and scrotums and stuff, like pressed into like a meat sort of thing. Is that what it is? I'm not. I see that listed on menus and stuff, and I always go, nope. I'm not sure. I don't know what scrapple is. Not real clear on it. It sounds like some kind of country down home. Whatever the inedible parts from whatever when you break down some kind of animals. Like buttholes, basically. I don't know. Maybe, like I say, I might be wrong. And sounds like you're, sounds like you're in love, Ian. We're moving in that direction anyway. It sounds great. Congratulations, man. That's fantastic. She lives in Florida. There you go. That'll give you more experience or more excuses to come to the U.S. And maybe it'd be cool if we could meet up sometime. It's difficult. People think that you're in Virginia. Everybody's like, why didn't you go meet him? I said, do you know how far that is from here? That's not just right over there. Virginia. It's not something. Plus, he's got stuff to do. He don't want to meet. What do you want to talk to me for? But anyway, good luck with the what'd you say it was? Anyway, you're Jesus. Let's just say your recent acquaintance. There you go. I don't know. You got me all befuddled here. And ticket prices and jury duty. You know, the jury duty, I didn't have to go. I didn't have to go to that thing. I called in the day before, and they said, we don't need you. Keep walking. I said, hell yeah. I usually like going to the jury duty, but in this case, I didn't want to go because I was getting ready for this trip, and I don't need to drop another load of nonsense in the middle of my life. But anyway, jury duty and ticket prices, concert ticket prices. So you were talking about it, thinking about it, and then I brought it up on the podcast. Yeah, there you go. Serendipity. Thanks for calling, Ian. I'm glad you had a good time in the U.S. and I hope things go well with your recent acquaintance. I don't know. And good luck with everything. And thanks for calling. And we're at the end of this thing. It's really long. I went on and on and on. I had categories. I had to go through my categories. Okay. I'm sure I forgot a whole bunch of stuff. This is probably one of those things I'd usually spread over like multiple episodes. We don't need to do that. I just want to tell you the highlights of the trip. I told you about the guy with his, bum wang. I told you all about that. That was a highlight. And that was pretty much it. Everything was downhill from there. But anyway, that was a good trip. A minus. Up from B plus from when we got back. He just had like a brief, like a half a day of, moderate to severe too much Jeff he was suffering from. Yeah, there's a little bit of friction in the car. You know what I mean? I said, yeah. I mean, I told him, I said, hey, I'm not bitching. All I do is I observe things and I comment on them. That's what I do. People think it's bitching. I'm just an observer. I'm just an observer and a commenter. That's all. He's like over there just looking at me like, yeah, right. Anyway, we're at the end of this thing. Thanks Ian for calling in. I do appreciate call back anytime. And good luck with everything. And the rest that goes for the rest of you as well. Call me up 570-290-8151. And if you want 2 episodes a week instead of a measly one, you can do that as well by heading over to patreon.com. It's Patreon, patreon.com/JeffK. Sign up for a $4 or more monthly donation, and you'll get an extra episode every week. Every time I publish one, let's put it that way. Every time I publish one to the main network, a few days later, there's a bonus episode for patrons, folks who have signed up for a $4 or more monthly donation. You get and there's like over 200 bonus episodes in there that you can access immediately upon signing up. Patreon.com/JeffK, that's where you can do it. And surfreportpod.com is the web home of the podcast. I'm behind again, but I'll get it caught up, and I'll post a bunch of pictures eventually from this trip there as well. So we're at the end of this thing. Thank you guys for listening. Until next time, which will be over on the Patreon side. Hope you guys have yourselves a fine, fine day. I'll see ya. Bye.
You gotta let it bring on.